Good thing they revised my page 12. I'm just going to cross that out.
Are we waiting for a chair or Reverend Michael in charge?
I don't know. He didn't say anything. He said he'd see us today. I don't know.
Is he?
He bicycle commutes too, so maybe he's, he's enjoying the weather. I don't know.
So Kevin might be a few minutes late, so
Oh.
he said go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have an agenda. I bet you do. Okay, 6 p.m., 6:02. I'm going to call the Administration and Finance Committee to order. Roll call. Alderman Rote. Here. Alderman Michael May.
Here.
Alderman Weigel is here, filling in temporarily for the chair, Kevin Haas, who was running a little bit late. Okay. Item C on tonight's agenda is an announcement of a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85 1 sub C, discussing performance evaluation data of public employees.
Just have to announce it.
I just have to announce it. Okay, that's all I have to announce. Okay. Item D, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion on approving minutes of a regular meeting of 9/10, 9/18, 10/2, and
for approval.
10/2?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. New and previous matters. We have a held item, the mayor's recommended budget. We have some addendum pages I think were handed out today. Are we going to see a presentation on this right now?
Yes.
Do we want to wait, or do we know how late that Kevin's going to be? Did he say a couple minutes?
We'll see.
Well, our only other item is a closed session, so.
I might be late. If I'm late, please tell Marty to go ahead. He didn't
Okay.
say.
Okay.
Sounds like a go ahead to me.
So I guess we'll start with City Administrator Rebecca Grill, and I see Peggy Stino, our financial,
And the mayor is.
and the mayor is
actually
here,
gonna
whose
start.
budget it is.
See, I got remarks. I'll
Do you
talk
mark,
slow.
do you mark first and then
Then you remark.
remark?
I'll talk slow in case you don't want to. Well, I was thinking about what to mention tonight, and feel like I'm saying the same thing every year, and I'm going to say the same thing again. I don't need to tell you that every year we're closing this gap, this huge gap that's a challenge to our budget. And this year again, we really tried to keep in mind the city's strategic goals that you set forth, as well as our mission statement and vision statement for the community. We have, as my intro letter says, a big focus on public safety and blight remediation, including continuing to push the neighborhood associations and the strengthening of our neighborhoods through organizing and dealing with vacant properties. There's also a focus on continuing the development projects that are underway and seeing those through, working with those developers, making sure that those come to fruition, as well as continuing to develop events like we've seen in recent months with the food trucks and the Chris Kindle markets and those kinds of things, to continue to draw visitors as well as give something for our residents to do and go out and spend money in our community. The last point I really want to stress is that from the day I first announced for my first term that I was going to run for mayor, is that we need to provide the best possible services to our businesses and our residents at the best possible cost. And that is pretty much the equation that I go through with every decision that we make and that we come forward with. And I do want to just take a minute to give a whole lot of thanks to Peggy and Rebecca in this process. The contributions and the work that they did was just completely immeasurable, so I want to thank them for that. But with that being said, I'm going to ask them to dive into the absolute meat and potatoes, and I've got to leave in about 7 minutes for another commitment. But I don't know if anyone has any questions at the start. They'll probably be towards the end.
Anyone? Right now? I guess we will later. But
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Devine.
To piggyback on the mayor's remarks about the mission and vision, in the mission, we're supposed to be providing cost-effective services to the community and provide quality of life for our residents and businesses and take a creative approach to the budget. We believe this budget that the mayor is recommending today does that. And along with that, the vision is the part that we are working on highlighting with our branding and marketing campaign, is working on making this the preferred municipality in the area. So I just wanted to highlight those two parts of the mission and vision statements. The next slide we have is the strategic plan goals. You're familiar with these. These are 5 goals that were established by the Common Council in 2017. So we're working through on about almost 40 action items that relate to this. So we are trying to focus all of people's efforts and activities to accomplish these goals. In the past year, as part of that, we established core values and competencies with the help of department heads and employees. So we have 5 core values, and then we have the 7 core competencies that are listed there that we are working to have all of the employees live towards as they provide the service delivery to the citizens. As the mayor mentioned before, we're continue to focus on high quality service for West Allis citizens. A lot of the things that are provided in the city of West Allis that aren't provided in other municipalities, such as same day service delivery for certain things. People get there if they ordered a recycling cart or a rain barrel, most of them will get there in the same day. There's plowing of alleys in the city of West Allis. That's pretty much unheard of in most cities. So there's a lot of high quality snow plowing and garbage pickup, along with just all of our employees providing really high quality customer service to the citizens. Additionally, other budget priorities are focused on the public safety, property maintenance, and blight remediation, creating more development and creating West Allis as a destination, and then fiscal sustainability and operational excellence. And I'll go into details of the last 3 in the next few slides. So for the first one that I didn't talk about, it's public safety, property maintenance, and blight remediation. There's an additional $1 million in funding for the police department. Previously, we were funding the overtime at about half of the actual costs. So this year, there's a recommendation to fund that based on the historical spending versus just take a chance that we might have that 50%, which hasn't happened for several years. And given the state of things, I don't think it will be going down anytime soon. Additionally, in the fire department, there are addition of CPR devices, Zoll ventilators, and other increase for medical supplies. Milwaukee County has allocated more of the cost to the municipalities, so that's reflected in their increase as well. In the property maintenance, in the past, we didn't specifically have budget allocations for the different property maintenance areas. It came out of the building inspection budget, but wasn't specifically allocated. So there's $4,000 for snow and ice removal, $30,000 for property maintenance. Grass cutting is at $9,000. Under blight remediation, there's a recommendation to look at the vacant property maintenance or property registration program based on the city of Janesville. They have an ordinance that they passed, I believe, in 2017, and then look into rental inspection programs. Further, there's a monthly property maintenance program group that gets together across the city. There's people from police, building inspection, public works, and things. We're going to be focusing on doing some lean projects. One of the things we want to do is figure out how to communicate better when we're trying to deal with chronic nuisance properties, because the different departments are probably having a lot of the issues with the same location. So we need to work on better communication amongst each other. For the citizen engagement, as the mayor mentioned, focusing on leveraging resources for the neighborhood associations. We're really trying to collaborate with the community development department, the police department, and the communications to support the existing programs, but also create new ones. Under development and destination, the mayor had also mentioned we're trying to focus on growing the events that we provide here. So this is the first year we have had a tourism and event coordinator. She started a few months ago. So in 2019, you'll see more of that coming through with her planning those events and the like. We have the redevelopment projects going on. We'll be in the second year of the branding and marketing campaign. We're working on some public art initiatives. We're trying to work collaboratively with the BID and the school district for those type of things. Next year is the 100th anniversary of the farmers market, so highlighting that and having events around that. We'll be putting together a farmers market marketing campaign for next year. The West Allis Dog Park, partnering our staff with engaged citizens and older people that are working towards getting a dog park. That's an additional amenity we would have for residents and visitors alike. And then my favorite page. The fiscal sustainability and operational excellence. So we are looking at repurposing the vacant buyer position that we currently have in finance to a grant writer and fiscal analyst. Last year, through our town hall meetings we had with employees, one of the biggest recommendations was to hire a grant writer so we can focus on getting grants and applying for grants. So that was something we're able to work in. Additionally, there's the need for different departments to help forecast if they're having a new program or looking at things, working with the departments and just helping them analyze their budgets. So that is one of the recommendations. Combining various positions to go to the second year of the hybrid approach for the assessor's office, adding in the appraiser position, a full-time appraiser position for 2019. Moving the mechanic position from the Public Works Department to the Fire Department. We spent a substantial amount of money on fire equipment last year, and this would allow that person to focus on preventative maintenance and repairs of the fire equipment. The next item is just more of a general increase intergovernmental, interdepartmental, and intradepartmental collaboration. So one of the things that I've had setting goals with the department heads and for their employees is a lot of times people within departments don't even want to share their knowledge or work together, and then that goes to department or division to division. So that's something we need to really work on, because as things become more challenging with our budgets and things, we need to utilize our resources greater. So that's one of the things that I have for most department heads for their goals next year. Improving the management of resources with AssetWorks and NeoGov. The implementation of AssetWorks is underway. That'll allow us to measure a lot of things that we weren't previously able to tell with fleet, with our the assets, with employees, how long things, so we can set benchmarks of how long something takes and how long it should take, you know, those kind of things to help with the performance management. And NeoGov helps with that, with the goal setting. Strategically investing in the maintenance and repair of the city's facilities. Right now, we are working with a subcommittee, the Community Capital Improvement Committee. Alderman Haas is on there. We're trying to go through that facilities program that we got back that was pretty sobering, and establish priorities for us going forward. I alluded to this a little bit before, but expanding accountability for staff through performance management, using NeoGov Perform, the software solution, but also having each and every staff member submit at least one goal and then have their supervisors establish two. So each person will have 3 goals. Most people that I've met with have 10 or 15, so.
That's good.
Focus on business development and citizen interactions. So the budget has a recommendation for a citywide survey and to do service interaction surveys. So when someone comes in and deals with our employees here, we can get feedback on that type of interaction. Also, more of a proactive approach of visiting existing businesses for retention and then reaching out to potential businesses. Implement the total benefit package to recruit and retain a high quality workforce. Engage employees in wellness and benefits, and have strategic planning to limit increase. So part of the budget under the health program includes a Go 365, which is a wellness program where people will eventually be able to like put in that they've walked this far, kind of, you know, keep track of people's activities and things like that, trying to get more health and wellness in the minds of employees. And then we're also working with the Employee Benefit Committee to develop a more long-term strategic approach to our healthcare benefits. A few of the other things that aren't on here but are in the budget, there's changes in the court procedures regarding House of Correction commitments. You probably have noticed that their budget went down significantly. They're utilizing the tax intercept and state debt collection programs additionally to collect from people instead of sending them to the House of Corrections, which was previously done, because what that does is cost us. Extensive review of the IT contracts and the budget. Tony's in the audience tonight, but there was a reduction of over almost $80,000. They went through with a fine-tooth comb and took out some things that might have been in someone else's budget, you know, and just went through each and every one of the contracts. So that was a substantial effort. Lastly, changing a maintenance repair position to a plumber in the water department to handle the cross-connection program that we have. So those are some of the other fiscal sustainability items. The next slide is just a reminder of the demographics of the citizens of West Allis. Yeah, obviously we have almost 60,000 people. The median income is a little over 46,000. The median age 38. 14.5% poverty. We have 27,000 occupied housing units. 52% of those are owner occupied, so then the other amount is renter occupied, and then we have 1,926 vacant housing units. And now I'm going to let Peggy talk for a few minutes.
The slide we have up right now is just showing a little bit of historical background information as far as our equalized values go. I think we talked about this a little bit before. Equalized value is going up in the city this year. However, not to be mistaken with assessed value, which we are expecting to go down. Equalized value has some factors in it, including economic conditions statewide, etc., and that's pushing that up. That means that our assessment ratio is likely to be off of that 100% point. So again, we talked about this a couple times. I think the assessor was speaking in July, and we kind of talked about some of those differences. We should be getting our manufacturing values by the end of the month, So we will be able to provide some additional updates on that. Of course, without assessed value, we can't tell what the tax rate is. Locally, we don't have any levies from any other taxing entities yet, the school district, the technical college, or the county. General fund revenues and general fund expenditures obviously are balanced. We create a balanced budget, something we're very proud of, something our financial oversight boards really are interested in us doing. A relatively small percent of increase on the general fund. We're looking overall at a 1.22% increase, which is smaller than it has been in the past. Then just a couple items as far as, we always talk about our big 5 or 6 revenues. Obviously, tax levy is one of the biggest. There's also shared revenues from the state. Nothing new in this budget. This is part of a 2-year statewide budget. No major changes with shared revenue. Levy limits are staying intact. However, there was again, we talked with the assessor a little bit in the summer about the elimination of the machinery, tools, and patterns from the personal property, which means there's also a new state aid that's in place. We're right now going through a process. Originally, the Department of Revenue wasn't interested in providing an adjustment for how off they were from the original estimate to what happened with some of the change in language and things. The preliminary the effect on the city is not huge, somewhere around $6,000, but we are going through those calculations with them. Nothing new for expenditure restraint. Transportation aids, if you recall, last year they went up quite a bit. There was some additional funding in the biennial budget from the state. However, transportation aids don't come out till the 15th of the month, so because of the share formula, we don't believe that we've spent less on transportation, so we think we're in a good place. But because it's a share formula, if other communities spent more than we did, then our share is affected. So there's no guarantees on where that'll be at this point. Payment for municipal services, we talk about that a lot. That's basically the state paying us for the state facilities within our community. Funded at about 38% recently. We haven't heard of any additional cuts. There has been some talk in the legislature about understanding that it's underfunded. However, we also haven't heard anything about increased funding. So we would expect the next payment to be somewhere in the neighborhood of the $200,000. State aid for computers, that did change last year. There used to be a formula. There was a calculation sheet that had to be sent in and registered with the state. That is no more. Basically, they said in 2019 they'll give us the CPI, the Consumer Price Index increase, and then beginning in 2020, it's just a flat payment based off the 2019s. And they haven't moved on that. That happened last year, and they haven't moved on that position at all. So again, kind of like perhaps another limit restriction, but also what this whole personal property and computer aids. I think that's what we're looking at going forward is there could be some movement to eliminate the entire personal property tax piece of the levies. The problem with that is we know where the burden gets placed when those go away, so we'll be watching that. Nothing new with the recycling program we know of. And then as far as the Clean Water Fund, it's basically a low interest loan program, and sometimes they do have some good interest subsidies, etc. So we'll be watching for those.
This slide is just highlighting the constraints that we continue to have. We are trying to provide high levels of service, but we have limited funding for them, but our costs are increasing. Remaining in compliance with expenditure restraint and the levy limits is another constraint we have, and then we have growing capital needs. As I mentioned before, the facility study identified a lot of those that we need to look at. Finding a balance in pay and benefits to recruit and retain good employees while managing our personnel costs. After this, a few of the slides will go into personnel, including the current OPEB liability, and then reviewing operations and implementing change continues to be a challenge. This slide is just highlighting how much we spend on employees. So 84% of our budget is spent on salaries and benefits for employees. 35.8 million. This is for the general fund budget. 35.8 million on salaries and wages, and 15.8 on benefits. Our current OPEB liability is almost $147 million.
So you might notice that that went up a little bit. We were at 140. Those were surely economic changes. Market gets better. They assume interest rates to be higher. The good thing about that is we implemented our Medicare Advantage program, which should really move the needle on that. The problem is we don't get credit for it for a whole year and a half later. So the OPEB report we did now is only up through 1/1/17, the beginning of your ending, your last fiscal year. The next one will be for 1/1/18. Again, we won't see the benefit there, but the next one we definitely will. And we'll be looking for a roll forward report next winter, spring, so we can keep you informed of what that changes.
So the recommended budget has 748.30 total positions. 171, almost 171 of them are non-benefited. 577 are benefit positions. 54 of them are funded by other sources. This slide just shows the allocation by function. Public safety, that includes police, fire, building inspection, and development. There's almost 300 employees in that category with over 51% of our budget. Engineering and public works has 154 employees, 27% of the budget, followed by general government of almost 67 employees, 11.5%, and then health, culture, recreation is almost 60 employees with 10% of the personnel. So this slide is a little difficult to read, but it highlights in a nutshell all of the departments and the changes of the budgets. You'll notice in some areas the items we've already talked about. So if you look at the assessors, has gone up 8.85%. That's the addition of the appraiser position. In the human resources department, that's gone up 11%. Previously, we had allocated the benefit and wellness coordinator in the health insurance fund. Now we have moved that to the general fund, so that accounts for that increase. Higher in promotion, celebration, and award, the percentage is greater. That is a smaller budget, so any increases have a greater percentage, but there's a focus on events and marketing. Next year, most of that is funded through the tourism budget, but some of it is funded in the general fund budget. Going down, we've already talked about police and fire, building inspection, planning. We made some adjustments to have more of the staff move from the different funding sources to the general fund, so that is why there's a slight increase in that department. In the senior center, previously there was not an allocation for benefits for one of the employees. There's been turnover, and so there's an allocation in the budget to include those benefits, so that is shown with that increase there. So overall, there's an increase of $737,000 or 1.22%.
Sure. So this one doesn't give as much information as it will once we have all of the information, but it's just showing the difference between 2018 budget, 2019 budget. Everything we do for the state is rolling on a budget to budget comparison. So we're looking at about 1.22. We do think that consumer price index, that CPI number, is probably going to be closer to a 2.5, give or take. 2.4 to 2.7 is about the range, and we should be getting that soon. However, with the reallocations we were able to make, we were able to keep it at that 1.22. Again, the percentage differences in each functional area go along with what Rebecca mentioned. The general levy, it's kind of a long story, but just so you know, the state replaced personal property tax with that $406,000 payment. So here it looks like it's only going up a couple $100,000, but then when we add that, that's how we get to the difference. I just wanted to make sure I showed it both ways. No change in the health fund tax levy, parking levy, debt service levy went up just a small amount, recognizing the upcoming payments for 2019. We don't have an estimate yet. Obviously, we do know that about 1 penny of tax revenue gets us about $37,500. So when we get our assessed value, we'll be able to come back with an exact tax rate as far as the change. But given last year's assessed value, again, it's going to be a bit smaller this year, but given last year's tax value, this budget will create approximately 20 cents, which is about $30 on a $150,000 home as far as an increase. Estimate only based on last year's numbers. And as far as the utility budgets go, we've been spending a lot of time with Public Works on these, just trying to really hone in on what it is we're doing. It's kind of a dually managed, the utility funds. We do them in finance as well as in operations, and we've been working really hard with all their capital needs and operation changes to try to gather what we need. The borrowing over the past couple of years for water and sewer has been going up. Again, when we do street work, a lot of that water and sewer infrastructure underneath of there is what's needed to be replaced, so the numbers really boost up from that. So we will have rates proposed in the next 30 days for 2019. Stormwater, I believe, we're sitting pretty well. Waste management recycle fee, that one we should be pretty good on. We won't know on MMSD until the beginning of 2019 when they bring those out, but I would expect an increase for water and sewer.
So this next slide, we're just trying to summarize a little bit of what we've talked through in the whole presentation. The non-tax levy general fund increase is going up by about 33,000 or 1.2%. There was a goal to eliminate reliance on the general fund reserves revenue budget. The staffing levels we tried to maintain at a level consistent to last year. We were able to do allocation and realignment, so we have only recommended adding a 0.8 of an FTE. The total net levy increase for 2019 is at a 0.85%, 704,000. The next two items we don't have any information on at this point, so we will have that later in the budget process. I don't know if you have anything on those.
That's where that 704,000 is. So the levy is going up 704,000, but 406,000 of it is the payment from the personal property tax. So you will only see the 300-ish thousand in the budget, and the same thing on the non-tax. The non-tax levy, those are our smaller things, our fee for service, licenses, permits, etc. Total overall increase by 33,000.
So the next steps, we'll be working with the Capital Improvement Committee to come up with a program for 2019. Our next meeting is Wednesday night. Then we'll be getting the information that we don't have from the state, expenditure restrained assessed values, and calculating the tax rate and utility rates based on those, providing any information that you might need going forward. Perhaps having another Administration and Finance Committee on the 29th if it's needed, and then there'll be a public hearing on November 5th with the consideration of the budget on the 20th. So at this point, unless we have open it to any questions.
Anybody?
Alderman May, you're
Okay.
ready.
I think I just need more time to go through it. Yeah, we just got this last Tuesday and it's gone all weekend. So, per normal, like to meet with department heads one-on-one and see what's going on. And so, there will be more questions, but not yet.
All right, great. Yeah. Anything else on the issue of the budget? Okay. Well, then I think we can move into closed session. Please take notice that the Administration and Finance Committee of the State of West Allis will meet approximately 6 p.m. here at City Hall to vote on a motion to convene in closed session to discuss the performance evaluation data of public employees and take such further action as necessary and appropriate with respect to that matter. A closed session for the above purpose is authorized pursuant to provisions of Wisconsin Statute Section 19.851C.
Move we go into closed session.
We have a motion. Second.